Welcome everybody to another inspiring Founder Talk interview where we interview the best-in-class agency owners. We look under the hoods of how the agencies run and try to give you loads and loads of really, really good practical tips to help you get your agency to the next level. We also love to take that opportunity to speak to agency owners and talk a little bit more about the realness of running an agency. So not just the good and the greats, but also, what are the tough times that agency owners sometimes go through. And today, we've got two very special guests with us, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the agency. We're talking today to an agency that has won numerous awards, and I just want to mention some of these, starting off with the Deloitte Fast 500 EMEA Technology Awards, the FT 1000 Fastest Growing Companies in Europe. There's been numerous search awards, UK search awards, best used for search and travel, best used small SEO agency, Deloitte Fast 50 UK Technology, UK agency awards. You can see them at the back as well. I mean, the list is just endless. And this agency is a content marketing agency that are taking things to the next level now. Most of you know them as Blueglass, but they have just recently rebranded to Single. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But first of all, I'd like to welcome my guests to the show. Chelsea, Kevin, hello.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for being on the show. So let's talk a little bit about yourselves first, which I always like to do. And Chelsea, you are originally from America. So tell us about what life was like growing up.
So I'm from New Jersey, a suburb of New York City. It's kind of like the equivalent to living in Surrey. And yeah, I was privileged to have a really great kind of, fancy education background, which I think helped me a lot in learning to work hard. And yeah, I eventually, got a boyfriend that was English when I was at university and ended up moving to the UK. And I realized that to get a visa to stay in the UK, you had to have a really special skill set. And I was introduced to SEO at university, and I thought this would be a good way for me to get a visa to live in the United Kingdom, and I've been doing SEO since.
Interesting. So what did you study then exactly?
History and film production.
Okay. How did that move from that to SEO then?
Do you know what? I always had an interest in technology, so I was always taking kind of like tech courses and some economics classes. So, I built some websites for the history department at my university, things like that. And that's how I kind of got into website building and understanding the elements of search engine optimization, which leads to content marketing.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And history sometimes helps with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, history research, right? Yeah. And understanding the past. And I think for SEO and to rank well in search engines, you have to understand a lot of different elements and analyze those. And, it's very consultative. So I guess that's where history came in, maybe.
Yeah. Well, there you are. So everyone study history if you want to get into content marketing. Right?
Yeah, definitely. We will certainly give you a chance.
Brilliant. And how about yourself, Kevin?
So I'm from South Oxfordshire originally. Mm-hmm. So I grew up there up until the age of 16, went to school in the local area, kind of like college and uni afterwards. And yeah, I guess my background is very much, I've always been quite a local person in terms of what I'm doing. And the passion behind where it's led me today, I think, has been, I'm not sure I'd have said it's something that I was planning on doing at that time. I had kind of, if I'm honest, had quite average grades back at school. At university, I failed my second year, and that basically gave me a bit of a, to be honest, like a kick up the arse to say, actually, I need to start working. And, which in hindsight, I'm really grateful for. Actually, that's a really good thing that made me think, okay, you can't just do the minimum and get by. Let's work for it. And I think it's just evolved into a background that led towards kind of computing. Certainly then the business mindset has always interested me. Just doing something for myself.
Quick break of that. I would love to show. Actually, do you know what? Can we show Roger? Because this is great, right?
This is the real office.
This is the real thing, right? Hello, Roger. How are you? Love that. We actually, let's talk about that later as well, about all the your cultural side of things, because I think this is all part of running an agency, running a great studio. You know, how do you keep people happy? The dog is a really
I'm
great
so
way.
sorry.
He's even on our website as head of security.
Oh, so
Have a good laugh about it.
Well, he's done well. It's just the plant person's come, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Excellent. Great. So let's go a little bit into kind of you starting your first agency, because the way I understand this, that this is essentially your second agency, right?
Right.
And what led you into that first one? So was that straight out of university, or did you have a marketing job before that, and then?
The way it worked was I went to Bournemouth University, which is where I failed second year. I transferred to Oxford Brookes.
Yep.
And had a bit more control over what I could choose as modules. So it's kind of a mix of computing and business.
Yep.
I then did a placement year. So rather than graduating and getting a job, I did 1 year at a web design agency, which I remember at the time was a bit of a risk. People even tried to put me off so that I could work for a bigger company that seems more established, etc.
Yeah.
But I just really like the idea of, I'm going to work for this cool agency, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Again, at that time, I've done some web development skills, but I'm definitely not experienced, and they kind of moved me around in different roles, probably because I, if I'm honest, wasn't very good. But again, in hindsight, that was such a great education, because I got to see every little bit that the agency was doing. I was involved in client meetings. One of the big clients was Epson printers.
Yeah.
And again, I was the first port of call that they would escalate things to.
Yeah.
And then I'm not the one that can answer all their questions, but just being involved in seeing how the agency ran was really interesting. And this was 2003.
Yeah.
That was a point in time that SEO was, I'd say, starting to take off. It was still very new at that point in time. And the agency started to offer SEO services to their clients. Okay. I worked quite closely alongside the founder of that agency. So there were 50 people at the company at the time.
Yeah.
On a downward curve from 150. So they'd kind of gone through the internet boom days and then we're coming down the other side of it.
Yeah.
And the founder had left the company to start a new business.
Yeah.
And I was just really intrigued by them in terms of how do I make websites that have Google AdSense on them that can make money.
Yeah.
Which led me into, I'm a student, I need beer money, let's play around with these things.
Yeah.
And just by being curious, it's okay, well, let's register a domain name, let's set up some content, let's put some ads on that.
You had a site for what it was driving lessons?
So
love it.
A school project, so a uni project, was you needed to create your own website for driving schools.
Yeah.
So I did that, but I had a year's worth of agency experience.
Yeah.
So it ranked number 1 in Google for Oxford Driving School.
Brilliant.
And at first I had an inquiry form and I was getting inquiries all over the place. It's like, I could drive, but I'm definitely not a driving instructor. So I switched it and put ads on there. So I started making money off of this website. So, I don't know, getting clicks from the AA or whatever driving school that was coming through.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that passion and curiosity led me into how do I do more of my own stuff.
Yeah.
I never really intended to set up definitely an agency, even a consultancy freelance thing for myself. I just set up my own website, made money from it and started blogging. So I wrote about my experiences as I was learning, almost just to document what I was doing. And I quickly found that actually I'm not the only one with these problems. Yeah. And I started to build up a readership of people that had the same things. So there's a small but growing community within SEO. Yeah. And then I realised I could start to win some clients, and kind of in the interim I did have a job out of uni. Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure this is correct, that I pretty much at that point in time was earning the same as my salary through affiliate advertising, which really took the risk out of leaving, because it was okay, well, I can leave, but I've got quite a nice fallback with what I've built on the side. Yeah. So I travelled for a year in Australia in 2006. Yeah. Positioned myself as a agency. Yeah. Really wasn't. And I had a few clients from the UK but delivered services to them from Australia. Yeah.
Interesting.
The exchange rate was great.
Was this already under the name SEO Optimized?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
So again, it was just like I don't really want to look like a student that's making it up as I go along, even though I am. But I tried to make it look a bit more professional.
Yeah.
I never really pretended we had a team or anything. It was just I wanted a brand.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was blogging and writing all the time, it was quite a nice home to put all of that into.
Yeah.
And then, things gradually started to take off. I spent that year in Australia.
Yeah.
Basically earning enough to get me by.
Yeah.
And when I got back, I'd still consider getting a job because I found what inspires me is doing work for great brands on a big level. And even so today, that still really motivates me to take things to the next level. And so I was quite interested in applying these skills for another company.
Yeah.
But moving back to Oxford, there's no one there that does SEO. And I remember at the time that there was an agency that was very good in Cornwall. And I think I can't remember if I applied for a job with them or not, but I definitely looked into it. And London, I don't even think was just on my radar as an option at that point in time. Yeah. So I teamed up with a business partner, so 2007 coming out of a year in Australia.
Yeah.
And he had quite randomly ran a dry cleaning business, but more of a forward-thinking dry cleaning on a business park that had done, they'd won like small growth business of the year, and they'd done impressively well, but he'd just left that business, and I teamed up with him because it seemed a logical fit that I don't have business experience, he does.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have SEO experience, I do, so I'd say that worked very well for that 6-year period of actually 5 years, I guess, 2007 to 2012.
Yeah. So what happened then? What was the kind of pivotal point then to what is the agency today, essentially?
So various number of reasons. I think one of the big things is we took the agency from being almost a local agency that has Oxfordshire clients into a national agency that was working with the likes of Deloitte, Miele, Audley Travel, M&G Investments. So again, like the type of brands that any agency would want to work with. Yeah. And I think my big realisation behind that was I did some analysis on where those clients had come from, certainly the ones that I saw as being where we wanted to go. And a lot of it had come through thought leadership. So I was speaking quite a lot of events, writing on our own blog, free consultancy, etc. And we also had quite a strong inbound, I say strong, maybe like a large focus of what we were doing was around inbound leads. Yep. And the other side was the outbound stuff, which I'd never really believed in. Yep. And at that point in time, there were various different circumstances that led me to think, okay, well, I want to do things differently. Mm-hmm. We perhaps drifted a little bit in terms of service offering away from the core of SEO into a wider suite of digital marketing services. And I think for a mix of, I didn't feel that things were quite right on track towards the end of that, and personal circumstances. So my dad died in 2012, and to me that was a big turning point of, if I'm not happy going to work every day, change it. Yeah. And
we also had the infrastructure set up to make it feasible to split the business at that time.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So at that time, Kev was in Oxford and then I was in London running the little London office. Yeah. And so we had our own set of clients in London, which meant that we were able to, just continue working with those existing clients under a new agency name.
Yeah, okay. So that's quite interesting. I guess then let's talk a little bit about how you met, because we're talking now about two different agencies, aren't we? So that's essentially your agency, SEO Optimized in Oxford. Yep. You're doing well. You're running that with another business partner. It sounded a little bit like you had maybe slightly different perspectives on like the direction that the business should be going?
I think that's right, and I never really saw it as a right and wrong situation. It's just different directions.
It's just different directions, isn't it? Yeah, these things happen, don't they? And then you, how did you then find out about Blueglass?
So Blueglass in the US were a large agency, probably larger in reputation than they were actually real size. So kind of 50 people, but highly thought of through the conference scene. So they had 4 or 5 key influential people that, if you go to any conference in the US, they would be the main figureheads and probably the best speakers at those events.
Yeah.
Because of that reason, I used to always, from like 2010 onwards, I'd go to the US at least once a year for a conference event because it's great for learning and networking.
Yeah.
At that point, I hadn't really met anyone from Blueglass, but I'd seen them speak and had always been impressed. So I decided to sign up and go to a Blueglass conference, which they ran themselves. And that was in LA. And actually, that would have been, I remember this, it would have been April 2012, because I flew out the day after my dad's funeral, because I always didn't go. And I decided, right now, I need a break. I'm probably not going to enjoy it, but I've booked it, I'm going to go, and I'll see what happens. And actually, it was a nice way to almost kind of switch off a little bit. You obviously can't completely at all, but that helped, I think, just give me a bit of time to think about what I wanted to do. And it led to conversations around Blueglass wanting to enter the European market, UK in particular, at the same time that I was thinking, I'm not sure where I want to go right now is the right track. And that led to further discussions around, okay, well, you want to do something slightly differently and have the UK market experience. They want to enter the market, but not necessarily be there themselves because they have the core business in the US.
Love it.
And we ended up seeing, okay, well, this is a good potential solution. And I had to make the decision at that point in time on would I leave what I had with SE Optimize and felt very proud of building up. Without the Blueglass situation, because it wasn't guaranteed that would work. And so I decided, actually, yes, I would rather go it alone. And if the Blueglass opportunity does materialise, great, hopefully it will work. But we ended up with a temporary brand name in between, which we set up it's called Quattro. I bought it off of like a brand website, panic.
It was a classic.
It was basically we need to tell our clients we've got a new brand, we don't have a name, let's find one. And this is why, and I guess we'll come on to this, but in terms of when we've done things this time around for the rebrand, we've done it properly, we've had a bit more money to invest.
We didn't buy it off a branding website.
And we've had a bit more time to think about it seriously. But yeah, I mean...
I'm just gonna do a quick break. Should we let Roger in?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah? Okay, and then we can do the microphone test quickly as well.
Oh yeah, good idea.
Is it still running?
Yeah. It says 1951.
Perfect. Cool. Excellent. Okay, I mean, that sounds really interesting. So then you have... So what happens with your previous business partner? Does he then continue... You sell your shares then to him, and he then continues off to do SEO Optimize, and you basically migrate completely, or well, in the interim to... What was the name again?
Quattro.
Well, some people... Kev says Quattro, other people said Quatturo. It was a disaster.
It's one of these names,
yeah, we just needed something.
Yeah, we needed something.
Yeah.
And so we just based it in the London office of what had formerly been SE Optimize.
Okay.
And so we just kept... Because...
So how did you already work at SEO Optimize?
So we met at a networking event for SEOs that I set up for a Saturday.
Right, okay.
And so that's where we met. And then I was working at an agency here in London.
Yeah.
And then Kevin, his business partner at the time, were keen to move, like to have a greater presence in London.
Yeah.
And so then I started the London office of that a new London team.
Yeah.
And
the London team was your old team.
Yeah, so I basically just took my team from my old agency and we just
Brilliant.
moved to a new building in Paddington.
Yeah. So give me an idea of scale at that point. Like what, like SEO optimized. How many did you have then in Oxford, and how many were here?
So at a point we split. It was 15 people.
Yeah.
I think off the top of my head we did just shy of 1.2 million turnover, and I'm pretty sure that included media spend.
Yeah.
So we did some paid search.
Yeah.
So I think we were probably $1 million, give or take 100k in terms of agency fee income. And yeah, again, I think we've taken it to a good level. We had a strong team, and things were, I think, certainly when you look back, the growth we had over that 5 or 6 year period was very strong. So it's definitely a big risk in terms of, okay, well, let's take what we have in London and almost start again.
Absolutely. And you know, kudos to you as well, because obviously you've already kind of had the experience and everything and worked up the team here to the point where then you can almost just come and say, right, I'm bringing in this new brand, and let's just
pop
do
them
this
together
now. And then the setup with Blueglass, then how does that come into play? So you basically took that opportunity. You said to them, we'll take on, so that there's the interim brand name just to tell people, and then basically that was a transition then to Blueglass. And how did that work? Because you said they've had a couple of offices around the US. The US, and then the UK was sort of their first European office.
So the deal was structured almost as a license of the brand.
I see.
Which in hindsight was great. Because I think the way we saw this working was we would be part of a group. They had very big, ambitious targets from a business perspective to exit. Lots of smart ideas around things like they wanted to be in South America because at that point in time the World Cup was coming up, the Olympics, and it's like everyone's going to be looking at Brazil. Let's position ourselves towards that. Let's do things more in Asia and towards Denshu, and it became very focused around an exit, which in a lot of ways was very smart. In other ways, they took their eye off the ball, and I think for us, we learned a lot of lessons with that. But I mean, the reason why a co-license agreement was great is because we still owned the majority shares of that company. So 6 months down the line, Blueglass US failed in spectacular style. So key partners fell out, clients left, more people left, and it just spiraled out of control. They lost a very large client. They were always self-funded, so no investment and minimal cash in the bank, if any. And they basically couldn't keep up with the cash flow. And then we're 6 months into this, having rebranded from SEO Optimized to Controller to Blueglass, and they're stuck with a brand that has
collapsed. Basically.
And don't forget the part about the conference either. There was a conference scheduled for like a month after the collapse, and tons of people had bought tickets to it through PayPal. And essentially as a company, we're blacklisted from using PayPal because when we refunded all these people their money, it was somehow connected to our business then. It looks like money laundering.
Of course.
People were, of course, very upset that they'd spent, many hundreds of thousands of dollars on a conference that now wasn't going to happen. So it was all spectacular form. Definitely the right phrase. There were so many angry messages.
Even today online, there was
like no MBA module about emergency crisis management. I mean, we've got it.
Amazing. I mean, these are the things that I love always highlighting because people. A lot of people in the industry know Blueglass as a brand because of you, and it's great to hear these sort of real stories behind it of how this actually
real disasters
and how you've how resilient you've been throughout these processes, right? Because I'm sure you were in a position where you were thinking, well, sod this,
completely.
We totally have this conversation.
How did you get out of that, operationally and also mentally, really? What was your process basically?
I think it's having good advisors. So again, like Chelsea's dad was very good. So he has dealt with a lot of situations around just companies that have collapsed and what happens financially. So from a very strong finance background, and just having conversations with people who
experienced
like,
agency people.
This isn't uncommon. It's new for us, but actually this stuff happens every day. And I think that gave us a bit of reassurance that we can get through this. We had to answer a lot of questions around, certainly there were clients I'm almost certain we would have won if it wasn't for the fact that there was all this negativity going around that they think we're going to go bust. And they should ask those questions for what happened. But we know internally, completely different P&L. And again, I think you were saying, your words a minute ago, is people know Blueglass because of us. That was our learning. When we joined as Blueglass, we probably expected a bit more buzz and excitement and client wins off the back of that, which didn't quite happen. And when it collapsed, that was actually a good thing, because when we're talking to clients and we can explain that the US operation has closed down, but we say, well, we're still the same people, we'll still do the same work, doesn't really change anything, they're more reassured. So actually, in some ways, that was a big positive. And it's, again, now we've done Rebrand again, that's helped to take the risk out of it a little bit, because we know that actually agencies are all about people, and if the people are consistent and the work is the same quality, what you call yourself while you do that doesn't really matter. That's not what they're paying you for.
And it's, it's a relationship business as well, isn't it? It's not like you're selling 100,000 whatever memberships for £99 a month.
Exactly.
So like obviously the brand is a completely different aspect than that. But I mean, let's talk a little bit about the rebrand then. So you now rebranded to Resignal, and really lovely work, by the way. I know you're it's really fresh now, and going through the whole transition. What is Resignal? Like, tell us about why it exists. What's the thinking behind the brand?
So we wanted to freshen things up, and I mean, we've just explained some of the brand history, that we decided that at that point in time there's no way we were going to rebrand again. It didn't make any sense, and we just needed consistency. So we bought the trademark and the brand from the US company, actually from solicitors. That was shared with a company in Zurich, who are still operating today as Blueglass in Zurich. And we made a decision, I'd say probably about a year ago now, in terms of thinking about it seriously, but in terms of really making it happen in January this year by hiring a brand consultant. We said, this is our situation, we're open to rebranding the whole company. In fact, because of the history, we're probably leaning towards doing that. But one way or another, we wanted to basically treat our brand in the way that it should do. We'd neglected it for quite a while. We'd built the history of the company on thought leadership and doing great marketing for ourselves. We had a learning, I think, during that period, which was, you can either look amazing from the outside or do great work internally, and we decided to drop a lot of our marketing and just focus on how do we make our own offering better, which I 100% think is the right thing to do. But then we've got back to okay, we're now at 1.5 million, how do we take it to 2, 3, and without really investing in our brand to win the type of clients that we wanted to, it would be a struggle. So that was a big driver behind why we did it. And then this time around, rather than buying a brand from a website and just make it up as we go along, we spoke to a few brand consultants. Actually, Agency Collective helped a lot, and just actually giving advice on, again, if it's a word of mouth referral that has worked for someone before. We worked with James Henderson from Brilliant Path, who did an amazing job, and just really helped to take us through that process of who are we today, where do we want to go, and almost give us a scale of how far do we want to push this, to the point that we were uncomfortable with what we were doing. And I would say Resignal to me was a brand that stood out to us during that process. but we probably weren't as comfortable with it at first because it was completely different to what we've ever done.
Of course, I mean you're tied to something that you've been
nurtured,
nurturing, and even to the point I think you're calling your team Blueglasses or what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
things like that, right?
So now we signalers.
Now it's the signalers. Yeah. So I think it's a really interesting process to go through. So that whole thing around your point of the future. So what does that mean for your future? Like what is the direction that you're taking now as part of that? Because it must be strategic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think for me there's
behind as well. Yeah.
Two big sides to that. One is the clients that we want to win to take us to where we want to be. So we want to position ourselves as, I wouldn't just say kind of enterprise level, but certainly we want to show that, Expedia is a large client of ours and has been for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
We want to showcase that type of work where we can do award-winning work for big brands in order to attract more of them.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big part of, okay, let's almost treat ourselves more seriously and position ourselves towards doing that. And I think the other side is probably more around, I don't know, to kind of, perhaps it's like the thought leadership of what we're doing, but just, again, just treating ourselves seriously with, there was another answer I was going to have there. Do you want to ask Chelsea that question?
Yeah.
I'll come back to it.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's quite interesting as well is your approach now to voice search and so on. These are, there's so many ways in our industry right now, and no one really knows where any of them are going. But you've made quite a consecutive decision to follow one of these ways, and that comes with a risk of maybe that's not the wave. But what's your I guess. What gave you the drive to go and take this path and think this is?
I think when we started Blueglass back in the day, content marketing was not that wasn't the language being used 6 years ago. But we definitely pushed for that. People who now describe their businesses as content marketing agencies literally tweeted about us saying this is a stupid idea, what a dumb buzzword, and it's like, well, you do it today as well. So I think that the thought leadership that, okay, now people do still search for things on search engines, which is like inherently what we're driving towards, and that's what we get paid to make sure happens. But actually the future of navigating people to information is voice. It's no longer, people aren't going to be sitting there on Google finding things. They expect Siri to bring up the right information and have that indexed accurately. In-app indexation is really important as well, and making sure that all these different touch points that brands have access to, or that they build apps for, or they make answers to, make sure that all of that is as easy for users to navigate to as possible. And voice, like Kev was saying, is such an important part of that, because in the future, people are literally, you'll walk around your house saying, how long do I boil this egg for? And there will literally just be an answer. You should boil this egg for 3 minutes. BBC Good Food advises. So we need to make sure that BBC Good Food is our, if they're the client, then we're pushing for that voice search answer to be what's featured. Because unlike in the past with SEO, you have 10 results. With voice search, you literally have one or two. If you talk to Alexa and say, hi, Amazon Alexa, how many I need to buy flowers today. It will give you 2 results. The first is their own favorite bouquet, and the second result is the most popular bouquet on the website. And you only get those 2 results. So information is going to be much more tailored and customized to people. And so you just have to make sure you're in the right places to catch that traffic still.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a fascinating area, and like most people don't know what's still to come. It's really interesting.
It's only scratch the surface.
I'd like to talk a little bit about your roles in the business, because when I speak to you, when I see Resignal and I see how you're structured and also a little bit as the type of people you are, it's really clear to me that there's a very distinct split in what you do in the business and what you do in the business. So maybe if we start with you, Chelsea, like what is your what's your role and how does that differentiate from what Kevin does on a day-to-day?
Yeah, so my role is much more operations, account management. That's my main focus. So it's internal and very much focused on our existing clients and how do we upsell to our existing clients. I'm always working out how we're going to, milk more out of what we already have access to. Mm-hmm. And also HR and finance fall under me as well. Okay. And so those are my focuses. But really, clients, that's just what I do. Yeah. My background as head of SEO at another agency, I understand all the SEO elements and I understand all the content elements. But then I'm also good at talking. So it's best for me to just be out there, making sure everything's, falling into place, that we're hitting our points on time, in budget, and making sure that the team outside these glass walls does everything as we've promised in our contracts. Yep. And then, at the right point, just hitting those marks and saying, hey, so we've gotten you double the number of leads this month. Like, how about we do this additional project? So things like that. And then Kev very much more, as you'll see through this whole rebrand experience, he does the rebranding, he's focused on marketing. So Kev, Kev's definitely the external face, thought leader, making sure that we are respected as the source of knowledge. And he also does that internally with the team. And holding workshops and really focusing on what is our offering in the future going to be, and getting everyone really kind of reorientated about that as our potential. So that's really exciting too.
It's really interesting because I see this a lot in successful agencies where there's two co-founders and you see that kind of very distinct. The two distinct roles. You see that a lot in businesses as well, where there's maybe one person who's a little bit more the visionary person and one who's more the person who then implements the vision. And it's not that one person is smarter than the other, it's just the fact that one person actually enjoys just implementing and doing process, and the other person enjoys more the kind of big picture thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And so what, in this kind of journey that you've gone through together, were there any points or any experiences that you've gone through where you said that marked the point where you said, do you know what, actually we need to split our roles like this?
There wasn't, I can't think of a specific experience, but definitely all through SC Optimize as well, Kev's previous agency. He's been very good at speaking at conferences and sharing insights and valuable insights. And I think we read the book, or I read the book, Gino Wickman's, what is it called? Get a Grip. Yeah. Strongly recommend.
I think that helps.
Yeah, that definitely helped us just understand. What do we divide between the two of us? Yeah. And so we've basically taken the roles of, I will make sure everything runs, and he will make sure that we are going somewhere that creates a lot of added value for clients that more people will buy.
Yeah, and I think in some ways, in the early days, it was very much, I'll do biz dev and marketing, Chelsea will manage the team and keep clients
get all the work
happy.
done.
In some ways, it's still the same today, but it's just evolved a lot.
It's on a grander scale.
We've done, we now have a RACI, so we will have responsibility, accountability, consulted, informed, and we now have clear, okay, well, this is what I do, this is what Chelsea does, because stuff overlaps too much otherwise, and then it's one of those, if two people does one task.
Exactly. And who's responsible for it? Well,
exactly.
Like if something then goes wrong or whatever, then you're kind of sat there going, well, I thought you were doing that to make assumptions. It's interesting what you were saying in terms of your role in terms of marketing, right? So I've said this many times before, but you pop up on all of my feeds, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, whether it's LinkedIn, you are there all the time, and I think that's a real testament to your effort to putting out so much content, and I think that's also something that puts you as an agency owner in quite a distinctive position compared to a lot of other agency owners that I know who maybe don't put in the effort around that. At what point did you? Well, I guess you already mentioned a little bit about that earlier, where you said that you really already started writing loads of blogs and doing public speaking and doing SEO optimized. Is that just has always been a continuous thing?
Yeah, it has, but the way I've done it has changed. Okay, for sure. And
so I think what's changed specifically then?
In the past, it was I would write quite a lot of content as blog posts. And I'd start to speak at different events, and definitely went through a phase of I was speaking everywhere in terms of industry events.
Yep.
And then I think I had some work to do because it worked. It did well. Through that thought leadership, we attract clients, and then you end up in situations where I'm probably spending almost too much time, from my perspective, on biz dev versus the thought leadership and marketing. But now it's more of a balance of how do I get things out. Things have changed in terms of the platforms of how to do that. So again, I found quite a lot of success through doing kind of more short form content, LinkedIn updates, that type of thing. Which coincides with, I'm not sure I have as much time anymore to write the more in-depth pieces. And yeah, it's just been an evolution of what's worked. I think the realisation for me is a lot of the leads we get still even today come through myself and Chelsea as personal contacts. It's quite rare if we've got
we
a great
don't do
lead.
any outbound new business. There's no one in this whole company that calls up or sends LinkedIn messages or whatever those people are doing. No, it really is just based on long-standing industry reputation.
Makes sense. And I think there is a testament though for definitely the legwork that you've done in terms of doing all the public speaking and going out and positioning yourself as a thought leader in what you do, obviously. Can you share like a story of, because a lot of people are always interested in this, you know, you're working with Expedia, for example, and probably a load of other very interesting clients that people would love to work with. If you pick two of those that you would say are quite significant for you as an agency, where would you say they've come from? Like, can you share a story around that?
Expedia is a good one on my side. So it's through a mix of one person I've known through conferences, but when I moved from Oxford to London, the one thing I really missed was playing football. So I set up a five-a-side meetup.com group. I think it was like every Thursday night in Camden. Let's get 10 of us together. Don't really care who comes along. I want to play football. And if they're like-minded people that can do this, great. And there's a guy there who, to David, who worked at Expedia. And again, I'd say I knew him from events, but never really spent a large amount of time with him. So that helped just in terms of establishing a relationship. And alongside that, I got invited to speak at an event in Kiev, and Jose, who was the head of SEO at Expedia at the time, was another speaker. We got to spend a good amount of time together as kind of one of 3 or 4 English speaking people in the country for 3 days.
Out of all places,
but it's always the same when you go to conferences. The English people or the people from England, I guess, are the ones that hang out, and
of course,
that really kind of formed a relationship where it's like, okay, well, he wanted to see a bit more about what we were doing. I got to build a relationship with him, and then it was probably one of the easiest situations we've ever won work from, because we'd established that level of trust. They'll give us, again, like a small proof of concept. It's not they'll hand us a contract, but we've got a foot in the door that means here's our opportunity, let's do some great work and grow it, which is exactly what we've done.
And with that opportunity, because I guess this is another thing, was that a I'm going to say like a well-paid opportunity? And the reason why I'm asking that specifically is because you get these opportunities sometimes, and then it's one of these like projects that actually they don't have that much budget, and almost like you almost have to do a bit of a loss leader,
isn't it?
You almost have to do a loss leader to get your foot in the door. Like how was that for you in that scenario, or was it like a perfectly normal project like any other?
In that scenario, I'd say that was very good, and it was with an element of trust, and I think a lot of it comes down to, again, the people who are involved in that. He was happily back us rather than say, here's your test.
Yeah, there was an element of trust, wasn't there?
We're on the same side, here's a budget, make it work, we want to work together. And that, to me, is much better than we're not sure about you, have some budget here and then we'll judge you.
I can't think of an example where we have done a project that was an obvious loss leader in some run-up to some promised, fabled, huge retainer. Have we? I don't think so.
Not off the top of my head.
No,
I mean,
because
some stuff obviously doesn't work out in a way.
Yeah, completely.
It's planned, but it's difficult to know in hindsight. And I think there's a lot of warning signs we can probably read a bit better now.
Yeah, definitely.
So interesting about that. What would you say are kind of the biggest warning signs for you when you see a potential client that you probably think, you know what, they're not gonna.
When they initially say there's going to be a big budget, and then you come in and pitch, and then they say, "Oh, well, we really like your pitch," and they're always really encouraging. But then if they rip out, "Well, we've got this element covered in here. Oh, and we also do this other element. We could use your help on this one element here."
Yeah.
Like, and if you've maybe that element C of ABC, they've said they can do element A, element B. You get to element C, and you said element C costs 10 grand. And they say, "But our budget for element C is £2,482. You're like, "Well, that's not going to work."
Yeah.
And that happens with big brands sometimes. Yeah. It's like, well, no, we.
Yeah.
Because our offering is very much holistic in terms of we will rank you higher in search engines off the back of, you know, doing the strategy, creating the content, getting it live, and building the links to it, etc. if it's off-site. Yeah. And if they want to rip all that apart and just do one little part, it's like, well, no, and it's not enough money either, really, usually. It's
like trying to build a car by, you know...
here's a tailpipe.
Exactly.
I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting. Have you had experiences in the past where maybe the times haven't been that great in terms of financially, where maybe those scenarios have then... I guess I'm always someone to see this quite a lot with agencies where, you know, desperation leads you to taking on board crap clients, really.
Oh, definitely.
Have you been in scenarios like that before? How are you dealing with that now? Like when you are in those scenarios?
I think now we're in a much more comfortable place where we can be selective about taking on the right long-term clients. We've definitely had periods in the past, even 18 months ago. We lost 3 or 4 big clients at the same point in time, and had a big hit, almost like a 50% drop in monthly revenue.
Yeah, it's huge.
Our reaction to that was to take on some more short-term focused projects, so audits, content marketing campaigns, but not necessarily long-term retainers engagements that are really taking us towards where we wanted to be. Some of them worked out well. We've turned them into those. Others haven't. But yeah, I think again, one of the things I find, again, it's hard to get education around this type of thing, and I'm not sure people always talk about it enough, but it's like the personal finance side of things. So for me, when I started an agency in 2006, personal finances weren't an issue. I mean, I was like 23, 24, and I was travelling for a year. So if things go really badly, I'll go home. It's not the end of the world. But as you get older, I know a lot of people now where they're on, let's say they're on 100k salaries, and in order to set up an agency for themselves, they need to be making 10k a month, almost from like month 2, in order to get things started, and that's a lot of pressure. And I think one of the big things that I did semi-consciously at the time was when we restarted as Blueglass, I sold a flat that I bought in Oxford, and just by having cash in the bank, that takes some of the stress away from we have to keep the lights on, we have to month on month just pay the bills, because we know, I mean, obviously we want to get paid, but we know if a client doesn't pay us, we can't magically create money to pay ourselves. And actually having a bit of a buffer that said, okay, well, we're still going to try and build a profitable business, but if we're not going to pay ourselves this month, and like even pretty much up until today, we haven't really paid ourselves significant salaries at all. I would say just having a bit more financial freedom behind that side of things takes a bit of the personal stress away from the business stress, so that's helped a lot as well.
I think that's really good advice, actually. I think I always look at your Instagram stories and everything, and there's always something cultural going on at now Resignal. See, I need to
exactly. Well done, David.
But there's also, I remember coming in here a couple of months ago, and we had a bit of a chat around something. Well, I walked into the office and it was empty. and it was I think Friday.
It was Wednesday.
Was it Wednesday? Was it Wednesday? Yeah. It was 1 p.m. or something like that, or 2 p.m. And there was no one in the office. I was, what's going on here? Is this how it works? But then you told me that you were trying out this sort of 5 hour a day, or like half a day work or something like that. So talk us through specifically that example, and then what I'd like to do is just talk a little bit more around your experimenting generally around doing things for the team, with the team, to basically make the workplace an amazing place.
Yeah, I think we're very conscious of productivity. I worked in a lot of agencies where, there's just fluffy people around who actually don't have much work to do. And what we do is really focus on making sure every hour is as productive as possible, and then people can leave at a decent time, right?
Yeah.
And so what we've done as a test is we start work at 7:30 in the morning, and it goes until 1 p.m. Okay. And I think we divide it into there are 5 sprints with 4 breaks.
Okay.
And everyone has to submit the day before. We have a spreadsheet for each sprint, which is, don't quote me, between 60 and 90 minutes long, what work they're going to do during each sprint.
Yep. And
then as we go through the day in each sprint, people check off, have they completed the task they said they were going to complete during the sprint. Yep. And each break we do something different. So we go for a nature walk, we get coffee, we had snacks, we've got team building exercises, like fun sporty things. Yeah. So by doing that, it just kind of switches up the day, right? And we actually did the analysis, and the number of billable hours in a week where people do the 5.5 hour Wednesday versus a 7.5 hour Wednesday, literally there's a 4-minute difference.
Wow.
4 minutes less billable time per person.
Wow.
So that's
so you do this every Wednesday now?
So we do it some Wednesdays.
Okay.
We have not done it every Wednesday since we saw you, I have to say.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah. I love that. And so talk us through a little bit more around your approach generally to experimenting with these sort of things, because you do a lot of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And where's that come from?
I read a lot of books.
Yeah.
And so I just get these random ideas and then we try them out. Yeah. Other things we did, we have like a hassle sheet. So I just made up this little sheet that I print off saying, what are hassles in your day that make work more difficult than it needs to be? Yeah. And then people have a couple days with the sheet and they submit, the things that are issues. And it's weird stuff, right? Someone will say, my Microsoft Excel is old and it means that I can't, run this certain formula and it takes 2 hours and it should take 5 minutes. Whatever things that it's not
all
like
this stuff is quite easy.
Yeah, it's really like one was that when people in a certain part of the office went to the loo, they always got shocked by the door.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was so. I found on Amazon static spray. And now they can go to the loo without getting a shock.
Did you hear that? Yeah. Static spray, love it.
So it's all different random things, right? Yeah. But anything that takes away, that distracts from people working, I don't want that to be a problem. Yeah. And usually it costs less than £5 to fix, so why wouldn't we just fix it?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, that's really cool. Time management is an interesting topic amongst agency owners. So I have this conversation on a regular basis with people because the biggest excuse that people use is I don't have time. And you're running a team of about 20 people now. Yeah. To be able to manage a team of that size, you need to be really good at managing your time. Right? Yeah. Because otherwise, you don't get anything done.
Well, we need everyone to be good at managing their time if we're actually going to have an efficient company. Yeah. So we don't actually do any client communication in the morning.
Okay, interesting. So talk us through some of these techniques that you use to...
So we start work, it's a flexible start between 7:30 and 9. Yep. And if they start at 7:30, then they leave at 4, I believe. And the focus is that morning time, as you can, there's no noise out there right now. It's before lunch. Yeah. So before lunch, it's focus work time. Yeah. And then we have lunch, and that's when the office becomes a more lively place. And in the afternoons, we have all of our client meetings and client comms and internal meetings. We try to do all that kind of stuff in the afternoon, so that morning time, it's like a school library. At least I think it is, and it works for us to be more efficient.
Brilliant. I love that. Yeah, it's great. What about yourselves, like in terms of your personal time? So we start with you, Kevin. Like, do you have any techniques that you use to get more stuff done?
I've tried doing loads of things, so I still nowhere near perfect on these type of things, but the things I've experimented with, one is I get scared by how much time I spend and a lot of people spend on mobile phones. So I've deleted, I have one app on my phone that's social, which is Instagram. So it's like, okay, I allow myself one, but otherwise you just get sucked into everything else. So, and I have no notifications other than kind of like phone calls, text messages. It's like a Nokia 3210. I even tried, I actually, for a period, I bought a like £10 phone from Tesco and diverted my iPhone to it, which sounds
until you got stopped by the police and they were asking what.
My issue is I've just got no
throwaway phones.
I've got no sense of direction going to meetings. It's like Google Maps is the one thing I really miss. But that's one thing. I've tried apps that block you from websites during the day. Pause inbox plugins that are pretty good, so you can focus on tasks. There's one I've used which is a Pomodoro technique. So it's called Kanban Flow is the tool. So you understand what tasks you want to do that week, and it's much more task driven rather than the kind of like inbox of where do you start sort of thing. That's helped because again I can set 25 minutes of I'm just going to focus on this one thing, and then you get a 5-minute break of okay, well sure, check LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, and that's helped me. And I think again I've generally been quite good at prioritising by value, so like the big important stuff I generally try to focus on first, but even then I have to do some things like even setting false deadlines of this needs to be done by next Wednesday, but if I know that I'll probably leave it until Tuesday night, so how do I say actually I'm going to get it done by Friday and schedule time? If it's in my calendar it normally happens, if it's not in my calendar other stuff goes into my calendar and then it doesn't happen. So blocking out time, I think, to make the important stuff happen.
So
works.
Not feeling the victim of email, because email is reactive. And actually, if you set your intention for the week on Sunday for the things you need to hit during that next Monday to Friday, I just find that's the best way to do it. It's like, okay, this week I'm going to upsell to these 2 clients and we're going to do this set of reviews on team performance, whatever it is. And that way you actually know from Sunday what you're going to be kicking off your week doing and what you have to get moving to accomplish those things. Because email's a poison box. It's just people 100%. Sending their wills upon you. It's like, I'm not doing what you want. We're doing what we need to do.
It takes for you to
the distraction mentally.
Look at how they communicated that, understand what they actually mean.
It's terrible.
Things, and it's like, actually let's pick up the phone and have a chat.
Exactly.
Sometimes solve a lot of time. The other tip I heard, so I went to a dinner with James Kahn from the Dragon's Den, and the tip he gave that I really liked, and I've started doing this quite recently, is he will, at the end of every month, look back at that month in his calendar and score it. So on this day, he went to these meetings. Was that good or bad? Because in advance, it's like you don't want to turn everything down because you never know what's going to come out of it.
That is great.
But actually, when you look back, that's where in hindsight you can say, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. So next time, keep that in mind.
But even if you had a really good day, right, you can see like what were the things that I did that day that worked really, really well for me, and let's see if I can do that again in the future. Love that. How do you feel about like task lists? Like, let's say you get to the end of the day and you haven't completed your task list. How's that make you feel?
I can handle it.
How about yourself?
I probably don't use task lists as much as I used to. I think it did. Sometimes it was like you're putting small tasks just to get that feel good factor of ticking things off, which I think is actually a good thing. Like you get some small wins in early in the day and build momentum. But then you do get the disappointment of, okay, well, I haven't finished everything. And generally, I prefer to have the approach of I want to do one thing really well as opposed to I need to get 10 things done today.
We also have our board meetings monthly, so we know from that from that kind of external senior advisor level what we need to hit that month.
The key strategic
points. So it's like, okay, I've got 7 things between now and the end of this month that I have to get done in order to push us forward from an operations, finance, HR perspective. So yeah, that's definitely the better way to go.
It's really interesting because, you know, to you it seems really normal. Obviously I have a conversation with hundreds of agency owners, and you know, it's this kind of information is so valuable to some people because some people go through task lists and they, you know, they get to the end of it and they missed one thing and they beat themselves up.
I always put at the top of my day just the one big thing I need to do that day, and then everything else can go underneath it, but it's that one big thing that needs to be accomplished. I don't know if that's helpful.
It's definitely a pattern amongst people who are managing their time well. So
I agree with that. I'm disappointed if I haven't done the one big thing.
Yeah, the one big thing.
I'm not disappointed if I haven't done the 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
There's an interesting kind of like a series of videos done by, I think, by Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn. It's called blitzscaling or something. We did that for Stanford. Was it Stanford University? It's one of the universities in the US, and he talked a lot about letting fires burn, and kind of looking at that concept and going, you know, how too many people try to fight so many fires at the same time, and it's like you can't.
Because then you don't actually do anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially, I think, with the team, if something goes wrong, the key is for them not to expect to come to, in most cases, me for an answer.
Yeah.
I just love being like, okay, guys, tell me what you're going to do. And then I think we're very good at, people expect to bring a solution, not a problem, which helps. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think I've consciously changed my language with people quite a lot of the time when they ask me what to do.
Yeah.
I'll ask them what would they do,
and
then I'll give them my advice afterwards.
Yeah, and if all else fails, you take Roger and
exactly.
It'll make your day happy.
Exactly.
Love that. Another big topic, also for me personally, that I'm really curious about, especially with agency owners that are doing well, is this whole concept around drive and ambition. You know, where does drive come from? And I guess I'd like to go on a little bit of a philosophical journey with you, and maybe if you try to think a little bit deeper and kind of way back, right? Like from when you were a kid to now, where would you say, like, let's start with you, Chelsea, like where would you say your drive has come from? Because you can't be here doing this all this now.
I guess
a level of drive, right?
Yeah, I think I was always kind of fiercely independent as a kid. I don't appreciate being told what to do by, well, as Kev will attest, anybody.
Yeah.
So in order to kind of push forward, I feel like that obviously then has to come from myself.
Yeah.
And I think I worked really hard in school as a kid, which, you know, it's a long time ago now, but I think that had a profound effect on me. Just, you know, keep pushing ahead even when things were really difficult. Academically, I really struggled. And so I think that just resilience built up over time, because I'm just used to not understanding what's going on and not knowing what to do and then having to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that played a big role for me on a personal level.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from though? Like fundamentally, like what?
If you're going to be independent, you've got to make sure you can work it out. Otherwise, you're just kind of, you know, in between two places with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I can really ascertain. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, I mean, you know what? I don't want to be dependent on anybody else. Yeah. And so if you're going to do things yourself, that means you have to, you know, you have to have that drive. And I also I've always found making money a really fun game. Yeah. I think it's fun to try and make more money. And it's a fun way to kind of score, like, well, how well are we doing? How many things have I gotten done? The irony being, like, I don't spend tons of money. So it's just a kind of a fun game to be a part of, in my experience and opinion.
I know you do quite a lot of sports as well, right?
Yeah.
So you're like cycling, you do... Have you done... I think I've seen pictures of you doing triathlon and stuff. Was it
triathlon? No, I didn't do a triathlon. No, not yet.
Not yet. There we are. There's a challenge, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, you know, if you look at that side of your life as well, like what drives you there?
You know what? I just like to sweat, really. I think it's just another form of working hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of Protestant work ethic, that American can-do attitude.
Yeah.
Just kind of, you know, it gets absorbed as you're growing up in that culture of, if you work hard, you know, I think money equals freedom. Yeah. And so if you can build up something exciting like what we're doing here, that means there's more options for us and ways we can take it. And I can't imagine doing anything else day to day. I just I love being here. I'm here all the time. I freaking love it.
Amazing. How about yourself, Kevin? Where do you think your drive has come from?
I'm not quite sure where it's come from. I think again it's more evolved over what we're doing. I remember when we relaunched the company as Blueglass at the time, I remember always like the first year of, if I have a day where I feel like I'm moving things forward, I'm happy. Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily mean that financially or whatever, in terms of like extrinsic metrics, everything has to be going in the right direction. But if I feel like I've had positive meetings, I've done good work, stuff will work out, and I was pretty confident that actually I'm doing the right things. It's just a matter of time that's going to pay off. And I think again, I've never been competitive against other people, but I've always been very competitive against myself. So it's like, if I've done something in the past, I always want to do something better the next time, whether it's a piece of client work, pitch, anything. It's like, how do we not stand still and just, okay, that worked last time, let's do it again. It's more, that worked last time, but let's take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And I think I've always had that passion to grow and improve. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't say I'm money motivated at all. Like I almost couldn't think of anything worse than taking a brand's money, not really delivering for it, but making a lot of money for ourselves. I'd much rather feel like we've really
we get a
earned
kick
it.
out of optimizing and improving.
Yeah.
And I think we're also both, me from more of a loud American perspective, you are definitely quieter about it, but we're relentlessly positive too. Like,
so you were talking about constantly being positive.
Yep.
Where does that come from then? How do you motivate yourself? Especially in tough times.
So one answer, I think this has helped me quite a lot. I had a mentor that his analogy was put your own air mask on first, which I really liked. So it's more about how do we, as founders, spend that time on doing what's important for us to move the business forward, because otherwise you just end up helping everyone all the time. So I think actually,
helping everyone except yourself.
How do you do the things that are important to you? How do you invest in your own personal development? So again, like reading, as you mentioned, I think is a big thing we've done a lot of. Probably not so much around the industry, more kind of like business.
It's more business strategy, isn't it?
That type of thing.
We have a library here that everyone in the team can just take all the books from if they want. But yeah, definitely reading and podcasts. We listen to a lot of podcasts as well.
So give me 3 books that you love and 3 podcasts that you love.
Ooh, okay. I really like the HBR podcast. I also really like the McKinsey podcast. It just kind of opens me up to more like senior fancy consulting management tips that I don't otherwise know about. You know, like there was something about procurement and about bid structures. And I didn't know you could even have different bidding structures. Like, it was a fascinating podcast. What's a podcast you listen to?
So
you'd recommend?
I find I don't really listen to business.
Oh, do you not?
But maybe like Tim Ferriss, you can class.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss counts.
Sometimes business. James Altucher in New York, I think, comes up with some.
He's great.
He has some great interviews.
He asks all the questions that no one else asks, which is really good.
Yeah.
And there's a guy, Rick Roll, that's more of a triathlete, kind of plant-based guy. That again, that's kind of just nice to switch off and listen to something a bit different.
Amazing. And books?
Definitely Traction by Gino Wickman would be a top in my book. I just read 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. That was really interesting. Kind of taking recent history of the dot-com boom and understanding, okay, well, where's the world going next? Because the next large Google-like company is not going to be some kind of search engine mega advertising agency or company, excuse me. It'll be something else. Well, what is that other thing it's going to be? And so that was like a really kind of thought-provoking book for me. What would you recommend?
I like ones about hard work, so like Bounce, Outliers are all about how talent doesn't exist, it's focused effort. And obviously you might have talent at a certain level, but to get world class.
Grit by Angela Duckworth, that was a cool one. I think we definitely have grit. That's definitely a good description of us as well. We just kind of keep pummeling through.
And there's quite a few Principles last year.
Ray Dalio, that was outstanding.
Which is more about kind of...
I read that one's going to be on the list.
Oh my God,
it's very
so
good. So a lot of it is about feedback. So you try something and have a big goal. You fail. You learn. You make it better, and it's all in this loop. But when you do that loop, it keeps going up and up. And that's much better than I think I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And you do get better.
Yeah.
But not in the way that you could do if you really learn from the mistakes.
Yeah. One thing we took from that book was actually recording all of our management meetings, and we upload all of those to Slack for everyone to listen to.
Yeah.
So I think that, because that's what Ray Dalio did with his company Bridgewater, and I was like, that's a great idea. And we're very keen on feedback and improvement here. So, you know, everyone on our team is very open to, okay, you know, they're talking about this issue. Like, we deleted the IDS that was on the board before, the issue, discuss, solution.
Yeah.
And we're always doing that in everything we do. And so, from my perspective, it's a great thing for everyone to be able to be a part of and understand.
Yeah, love it.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think the other thing to mention on the personal development side is last year, we basically, as founders, could have taken a decent chunk of cash out of the business. We didn't, and we invested it in ourselves. So I went on a Harvard course around leading professional services companies.
Yep.
A lot of it was around kind of big consulting, Deloitte style companies on what they did.
Yep.
Learning about, again, like McKinsey was one of the cases of how they even started to get where they were. And that was such a big eye-opener for me, just in terms of how to look at how to manage client relationships, how to deal with difficult situations, etc.
And it's easily accessible. Like those great case studies that you learn from, if you just Google like HBR or like Harvard Business School case studies, you can find tons of them online. So it's really, because the cool part is that they give you the problem, and then you would be discussing the potential solutions and what to do. And then they discuss, and then they read on about, okay, well, what actually happened, and was it a positive or negative effect? So those are really fun.
Yeah, that was a big one. And then you went on a like the Titan Summit, Robin Sharma leadership.
Yeah, so
well.
that was really cool. Basically, Robin Sharma's is kind of like, I hate to say self-help, but it's going in that direction. Like motivational business, big guru type thing. And he does a 4-day event in December for business owners. Well, not for anybody, but mostly business owners attend. And it was so cool. Each day has a different theme about your business or about your health or you know, it was just great. And they had outstanding, really impressive speakers. So I would strongly recommend looking into that as well.
It's amazing when you have these conferences as well that just take things to the next level.
Yeah.
I mean, this is...
And the people you meet at them, it helps you, you know, be in that circle of genius that makes sure that you continue to be inspired by others around the world in a similar position.
One of the ones that I've always wanted to go to was the Do Lectures. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, I haven't.
I think they're in Wales once a year. And like,
in Wales?
And they basically hire out this barn and
cool.
There's not that many people that go to it, but it's, you know, some really interesting speakers.
Cool.
And the topics to cover is everything life-based. You know, sometimes business, sometimes not. Like, it's just really interesting, but like quite deep. Like, everything's really deep. I think it's probably quite exhausting at the end of it, but in a good way. So,
that's amazing.
Cool. Amazing. Your final top tip for agency owners, everyone that's listening to this or watching this now, what's the kind of, if you distill it all down to the one thing that you want to give an agency owner, what would it be? So
the tip that's helped me a lot is look back. Like, I'm terrible at celebrating success. If we win a pitch,
we never celebrate.
Like, great, we won. That's our job. Like, let's go on to the next one and continue. And I've had a mentor before where I would always look at, like, I don't know, if we've won 2 out of 3, I will be kicking myself on the one that we've lost. And externally, again, I always think that everyone looks at us from the outside, anyone from the outside is like, you've grown like that. Internally, you know, it's not at all. And I think just looking back at where we were, not even 5 years ago, 1 year ago, is really powerful in terms of saying, actually, what we're doing here is working. That's quite motivating to see.
Also seeing the team improvement and the team performance. If you think people who we have in our office today and the quality we have today, like, we've really done an amazing job of improving, you know, the resource we have to serve our clients.
But I think on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis,
you forget.
don't see that, on a look back at where we were last year, and it's like, oh wow, actually, but it's
you've done some good stuff.
I always sometimes it's like maybe we're not as shit as we think we are.
Yeah, completely.
But it's really important to look back like that.
Yeah. Oh gosh, my one tip.
Distill it all down.
Oh, I would just say be relentlessly positive about where things are going, because I do think that there's something special in our perspective that we're going places and it's going to be great. I think it motivates the team. It helps keep everything going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I have met other agency owners who seem a bit tired of what they're doing, and maybe it's that they're exhausted and not taking the time for themselves. But yeah, we definitely, like when I come into this office at the end of a workday, I am spent. But I think that's because I've put so much energy into encouraging everyone. You know, I think of it as like we serve them and we serve our clients, right? And so if I'm doing a good job of serving our team and our clients, then everything else will fall into place, you know. And
you have to enjoy that as well.
Oh, you've got to love it.
I mean, that's the thing I always say to
if you don't love it, don't do it.
Enjoy client services, or if you don't enjoy building a great culture and a team and encouraging your team to be better, what's the point?
Exactly, completely.
Go and work as a consultant. Or not even a consultant.
Oh,
just
to work as a consultant.
Work in a lab or something. So no, brilliant. Look, I wish you all the best with Re-Signal and the new kind of journey. Really excited to see the continuous evolvement of the brand and the company. And thank you very much as well for giving up your time for the group.
No problem.
If any of you have questions, Chelsea and Kevin are Agency Collective members. So you can ping those over to myself and I will filter them through, and hopefully in due time, when they have a bit of time, they can respond to those.
Definitely.
Yeah, thanks a lot again for that, and we see you guys soon.